Hello and welcome back to One in the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patch's Kaplan. We're here to go over week 2. What are we thinking, Patch?
Can't start with week 2, Johnny, without talking about the legendary week 1. I have a lot of mixed emotions. There are some teams that I would like to apologize to, some coaches I would like to apologize to, some players I'd like to apologize to. But I think I have to look internally and decide, where did I go wrong all offseason? Right? Like, I was so high on some of these teams, some of these players, that I am legit embarrassed by some of my takes and some of my opinions. But I think that this just goes to show how open the SEC
Yeah,
and the Big Ten really are. Um, you know,
it's
I
crazy.
there was a little birdie in my ear that was talking about Florida State all week, and I just like could not get
No,
myself around it. And I
how
kept
could
coming
you?
back to the whole Kalen Debeor wins. He's a winner at Fresno State. He was a
Yeah,
great coach at
Washington.
Washington. Beat Dan Lanning twice in the season, got them to the
Yeah,
championship. And I was like, they're making a lot of sense. Boy, was I wrong. Did you see the video of number 18, Johnny?
no, what was
There's
it?
basically a play. It's like a stumble and rumble play, a power, where the running back bounces off the linebacker. Number 18, he's a safety of sorts. Legit loafs the entire way to the
Oh, I
end
did see
zone.
that. I
That's a
did see that.
score. And for our
Yo,
listeners who don't know what that is, loafing is when, simply put, you just don't run hard
did play
enough.
off.
There's no grit, there's no heart, there's no toughness. It was tough to watch, and it's crazy. When you take a step back and realize that Kalen Debeor is 5-5 in the last 10, how gross of a stat that is with the talent he has.
What about the fact that he's lost 4 games at Alabama in basically just one season. We're one game into the
Yeah,
his second season, but 4 games where they were 14-point favorites. That's crazy. He's lost
yeah,
more. And I think that
yeah.
Nick Saban was like, I'm not going to get the first number right, but it was like 113 or like 122 when he was a 14-point favorite. And in a season in one game, he's Kalen DeBoer's already doubled the amount of losses. It's
I'd
crazy.
have to believe that a little bit of the spread has to come with Nick Saban's legacy still remaining.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
there's, I always found it that really good coaches and really good teams, no matter how ugly the game might be, they figure out a way to get to a win. Week 1, you have had all year prepping for this team.
Yeah.
Spring, summer, August, and to go and give an effortless game. Everything that I said about Bama last week, everything I said about them being able to run the ball, that they're going to invest in their offensive line, they're going to invest in the run game, just completely out of the way. They played so bad, very similar to Oklahoma. Did you see the interview with Kalen DeBoer, speaking of the guy?
No, I didn't.
Basically, one of the interviewers was like, do you still feel like you had a good week of practice? Last time we talked, you said you had a really good week of practice. You're really happy about it. He was like, I said we had a great week, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking to myself, that is not an SEC guy. He could have
No,
everything that he wanted out at Washington.
he could be a Washington legend. Like taking, it's not talked about enough how impressive it was taking Washington to the national championship. And then it's almost like all of that good fortune's erased. Like 31-17 against Florida State week 1 when you're overpowered. Like compared to that Florida State roster, I thought Bama was going to boat race them. When you
Yeah.
talk about what they have on that defense, and I heard someone on a podcast talking about like this Alabama team, offensively and defensively, is so talented. So talented. Five
Mhm,
stars,
mhm.
5 stars, 4 stars, all over the board. But there's no sense of a team. Like it's just all this bunch of
No.
individuals out there playing. Guys going for highlight reels. Where was Ryan Williams? Like I don't even know. He
He
had
was in
like
the he
30,
was in the slot the whole time, Johnny.
like Jeremy Bernard, Jeremy Bernard, I can't say that. Had a great game, but besides that, offensively, like it's tough for Ty Simpson. Like he's waited his turn. He sat
He played
behind two
well.
two quarterbacks. I know he played well, but
Yeah.
he's like kind of the old school Nick Saban Alabama quarterback, not the kind of that newer playmaker
Yeah.
like Tua, Jalen Hurts, who they've had. He's kind of like that old school, like mediocre, distribute the ball. And he needs to be better on this Alabama team because someone needs to step up. And you're right. I was really surprised that they couldn't run the ball. And then
No.
defensively, man, Florida State just punched them in the face.
They've always struggled
230.
running quarterbacks, and it was embarrassing. Like, Castellanos legit had his way with that defense, did
Yeah.
whatever he wanted to do, and then some. Side note: are you drinking a coffee at 8 o'clock at night?
No, just no cups clean. Just a mug of water. Just water in there. Just
I was
water in
gonna
there.
say
No,
that's a
no,
real
no, no.
grown up move. But
No, way too late for cup. I'll be up all night. But what I did want to say, that
yeah,
230 yards, 7 different guys ran the ball
yeah.
for Florida State. Like Gus Malzahn, the Alabama beater, like he was just dialing stuff up.
Do you know who the president of the ACC is? I don't off the top of my head, but I think I owe him an apology. I was going to say that's the worst Power Four team, Power Four conference in the college football scene. I think I might be wrong about that. I think that it might be a hidden gem where we have a really talented group where we're only going to get most likely 2 teams in from the
Yeah,
ACC, but I could guarantee that those 2 teams are going to do really well in the playoffs.
yeah.
I'm rooting personally for my boy Haynes King in Georgia
Oh,
Tech. I
so gritty.
love the way they played.
Dog.
4 turnovers, I believe, and still figured out a way to win that game. Is just so
Yeah.
gross. But back to the whole Alabama thing. So I was listening to the game coming back from Saratoga.
Yep.
In Florida State, I think had a 14 or 17 point lead, maybe a 10 point lead at the
Yeah.
time. And I'll never forget when I was younger, UNC was beating Duke. And this is when Coach K was coaching. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
jeez, I can't believe Duke lost this game. My mom said, you never count out Duke until that final whistle goes off. And I've always thought that about Bama. I was like, it's just a matter of time until
Yeah.
something clicks, right? They're going to just figure it out. They're going to run the ball, going to go 65 yards in 6 plays. 8 of them were runs, average 12 yards carry. And I just left, almost feeling like I didn't even watch the game. Like nothing even happened.
I don't know. I just have to give a lot of credit to Tommy Castellanos because we were roasting him and the whole world was
Yeah.
making fun of him, everything
Yep.
he said. But man, he backed it up. Like just how dynamic he made that Florida State offense. Like he only threw it 150 yards, but like he just had guys confused out there.
Mm-hmm.
He was putting his head down. He was getting killed on some plays. But I don't know. Like that, they had guys running hard. That running back, I'm looking at the stat sheet. I think it was 27, Gavin Sarachuk, big boy running the ball, like just pounding the rock. Like they were just like, we're committing to the run. You can't stop. You can't stop us. I don't care how big LT Overton, Saab, all those guys in that Alabama defense are. We're just going to come right at you. And they did. It was crazy.
Yeah, the other thing that I just want to come back to is like everyone thought Ryan Grubb returning to Kalen Debeor's right hand man was going to be a Dabo in Coach Venables type situation where they were like, good friends. I just can't speak to it enough how disappointed I am. And this is just one of my 3 that I'm just uber disappointed in. And I left like, when and this is the fat person in me speaking, when you eat a meal and it really wasn't what you were looking for and you just feel like you never really eat and that you're still longing for something.
Yeah.
Alabama was one of those. Clemson was one. Texas was one. Notre Dame was one. Moving on to Clemson.
Yeah.
I am just so is bewildered a word, Johnny?
So yeah, let's just say final score 17 LSU, Clemson 10. Yeah,
is bewildered
bewildered is a word.
Okay, so does this make sense? I am absolutely bewildered that I had them as my national championship pick.
No, that is the correct use of the word.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yes.
So I am just blown away. At first I was like, okay, that offensive line is gritty. I love the personnel. I love the coaching staff. And I was like, ooh, I'm kind of wishing I had a little bit more out of the wide receivers, but that kind of stuff happens. And then as the game went on, it looked like Cade Klubnik forgot how to play football.
No, like he put together a ton of good games to close last season, and he didn't look like the same guy. He was confused out there, and I think what really was a huge part of it was I did not respect LSU's defense nearly enough going into the season. I thought they had a good defense. I thought they had a great linebacking core, but Clemson couldn't run. They couldn't run the ball, and then they had to commit to throwing, and Cade Klubnik just looked – the offense just kind of looked clunky, if that makes sense. Like nothing was flowing. Cade kind of looked confused. Harold Perkins on LSU did an unbelievable job spying on Clemson a couple times, just keeping Cade keeping Cade in the pocket, and they confused him. That pick he threw was bad too. That was
that pick was straight to it. It caused them the game. I thought Gary Nuss was incredibly poised. I thought LSU just looked really, really talented offensively. Against it was a really good Clemson team, and I assume they will get better. But holy cow, was I longing for this Clemson that I remember in 2018? And I kind of come back to the whole point of like yes, they're bringing back a crap ton of talent, and that generally is a good recipe for a winning team. But I don't know if you remember in 2022, 2023, Daniel Jones for the Giants at the time played
Yep.
outside of the skull in December and early January, got them into the playoffs. They beat the Vikings in the wild card game by 7, and then he signed a massive
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, he signed a hell of a contract for playing really good for 8 weeks. Like, let's see
Yeah.
how he returns on that. And Trevor Lawrence has done the same thing, and then he just never amounted to anything. And I kind of had this like gut feeling that Cade Klubnik is the same thing. That
Yeah.
all year we're going to just be waiting for this game, this pop off, and every single time he's only going to have 225 yards offense and maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. And he seemed incredibly uncomfortable in the pocket. I thought the final couple plays were an absolute joke. I thought Dabo really coached a terrible game.
Yeah.
Incredibly disappointed by Clemson.
Like, all that said, this Clemson team is still going to stick around just because of how good this defense is. Like, that defense kept them in this game, and that's what was really disappointing. Was if you're not like a 17-10 game, that's the game Clemson needs to win this year. Like, low scoring, you're not asking a ton out of Cade. Like, they didn't even score in the second half. They had 10 at the half. It was 10-3 at that, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's the game Clemson's going to win because of how good their defense is, but their offense just couldn't get anything going. And then I thought LSU did a great job of, even if they didn't score, they extended drives. Like, they just got so much action out in the flat, so many wide receiver screens that they blocked tremendously well. I think I saw them run the same play 3 times in a row in that second half and got like 3 first downs. Like, that's great right there. That's like 2 wide receivers leading the way, just blocking their ass off. But I don't know, like, this Clemson defense is top tier. They just need more out of that offense. They need to run the ball. I was really high in this wide receiver group. I don't know why. They just look really poor this week.
Yeah, it's funny because everyone was talking all year about like, oh, it's going to be the year of like the new quarterback. Like who's new quarterback
Who's
will
stepping
come
up
to play, more than anyone else. And if, I like to believe that it just wasn't true. I was telling myself, these quarterbacks have been training their entire young adult life for these games and that they're going to be ready for them. But boy, was I disappointed in the offenses this year. It was crazy to me. And I've never understood this, how Clemson and Miami did this a little bit. If you take a step back and look at the picture holistically, I'm biased towards that game, so I'm going to just announce that. But Clemson stalled out to an amount that is kind of unbelievable.
Yeah,
they had
worked.
No idea what to do offensively come the second half. I thought they had their foot on LSU's throat. I thought the game was in their arms for the win. All they had to do was put together probably 2 more drives, and that would have concluded it. But boy, was Clemson just dead in the second half.
And it sounds simplistic, but their leading rusher had 16 yards for Clemson. When you can't run the ball, it just makes you so one-dimensional, and it makes it so hard for the quarterback in that second half for Cade Klubnik. Because now LSU started dropping more guys into coverage. They were getting home with 3-4 guys on the defensive line. They were Clemson's offensive line also really disappointed me. Like, they were getting to Cade. And Harold Perkins he made a huge play on 4th down where he was just all over Cade. But the QB spy just totally worked. He couldn't get to his feet. He couldn't get the edge. It was a tough day, tough second half especially, but tough day in general for that Clemson offense.
You still stand by that win meant more for LSU than that loss did for Clemson? Or are you so impressed because, like you're saying, and I have proof of this, that there's someone by the name of Jonesy in my phone who said that this LSU could win the SEC. So, I agree with you that LSU team was really, really talented, but I think we have to look at the conferences as a whole a little bit more, you and I both, and say, yes, LSU looked great. Some other teams also looked really, really bad. But
you're right.
Clemson's the driving factor in the ACC right now.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, if they lost this game and they looked like offensively, say they lost this game like 27-24.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing. They look poor offensively, but also what changes the question is how good Florida State and Miami both looked. And we already talked about Florida State.
Where I was going with this by calling you out, Johnny, is that I'm almost with you that this win means so much more to LSU now than this loss. This loss to Clemson, in hindsight, I don't know, it's a great indicator of who they are and what they can be. But I'm kind of with you that this win for LSU is incredible. I think LSU has a really, really hard path, but I do think that the path is there for them.
But one theme, like I was trying to think of like talking points all Saturday, what to think, what to think, what to think. And one thing I kept going back to was obviously how important the quarterback position is. But LSU could really have a chance to win the SEC and even make a run at the title because I think a lot of teams, a lot of quarterbacks struggled on Saturday. And like teams like LSU, Penn State, what we thought Clemson was going to be with Cade.
Yeah.
Like if you just have a veteran guy leading the helm, I think it just makes such a difference because you saw Ty Simpson go out and be so mediocre. And then we saw Julian Sane and Arch Manning, and we'll get to that game. A bunch of young quarterbacks really, really struggle. I think when this season is all said and done, having a vet that it can just stay calm and stay steady down the line through like a 4-game playoff is going to be really important. And Nuss could be that guy. Nuss showed tremendous amount of poise against a very good Clemson team, Clemson defense, especially when you think about they took a touchdown off the board. I don't understand that wasn't a catch. I thought he had like in the corner, like that could have been.
You're talking the one that was like one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life that they said he were checking for foot in, and then they were like, ultimately, he didn't catch it.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't get how that wasn't a catch. I'm still like sitting here. I'm watching
it's crazy because it's like, we could talk about the rules on that all day long, but like you are, I was under the impression if I am playing offense against you, I'm a wide receiver, and I hit you with the and I catch a touchdown and I tuck it, and I'm in the end zone, that play's dead.
Yeah,
that the play is dead. You could go and do whatever you want after that. Personal foul, punching a guy in the face, or throwing the ball into the stands. That's after the play. The play is the minute you have secured that catch, it is done.
And you
but now suddenly you have to carry it through. Like it's funny because you don't have to do that in any other possession, but in the end zone, you have to carry it through the ground. Which, like, yes, you have to do that for the other ones. I misspoke there, but I just thought it was once you're in the end zone and you have caught the ball,
it's over.
It's done. And that frustrates me. I'm with you on that one.
You saw it with Clemson's first touchdown. They're running back, or it might have been the second one. They ran it in. He hit the ground. He was in the end zone, and then he just kind of like let go of the ball, and everyone just jumped on the ball. But they were like, no, he crossed the line. Yeah, he's in. And like, I don't get how it's not the same standard running the ball, just catching the ball. Like he had possession.
No, you're spot on. Like if I dive for the end zone and I'm diving out and I land on my stomach, the ball pops out. That should be technically that should be a fumble because I'm not carrying it through. I'm with you spot on. I want to just announce really quick. We forgot to even talk about our picks before we go into the big ones. I do want to talk about defenses and offensive performance after we go through them. So we had 5 games that you and I really liked and talked a lot about last week. Texas versus Ohio State. When we talked, Ohio State was a minus half a point favorite. Come game time, they were actually a 1.5 point dog. Syracuse versus Tennessee. Tennessee was a 13.5 point favorite. Bama versus Florida. Bama was a 14 point favorite. Clemson was a 4 point favorite against LSU, and Notre Dame was a field goal favorite against Miami. For reference, you scored 2 points on our Cheesecake Factory picks, leading me by 0, leading me with 0, and you went 3 out of 5 on picking. I went Zippo for 5. So terrible. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you got one.
Yeah, I picked Texas, I picked Syracuse, I picked Bama, I picked Clemson, I picked Notre Dame.
Yeah, but that Syracuse pick, like playing for Cheesecake, that goes the other way. You get a
I'm leading for all of September, but
like I'm chasing you the rest of the season on a win like that.
You mentioned how important a steady older guy in the locker room and on that offensive field is. And while I don't think neither Texas or Ohio State has it, I think that Julian Sane and Archie Manning battled both pretty well. I think people are selling Archie a bit too fast, Johnny. We could be looking at realistically one of the best defenses that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years in Ohio State. Yeah. And if this wasn't a 1 versus 2 AP matchup, Archie could have gone for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. But, where I'm a little bit concerned is that he looked uncomfortable in the pocket. Steve Sarkisian's X's and O's were absolutely god-awful, exactly like they were with Quinn. And I thought that Archie Manning brings a dynamic run-pass option. He has a better arm than Quinn. He has better deep balls than Quinn. Yet he didn't attack the middle of the field. He didn't get downfield whatsoever. He ran on he threw on the go, which is a tactic that a lot of coaches will use to make their quarterbacks more comfortable and shift the pocket so they don't have to step up as much. But I don't know. I think, I have a couple of texts that I still need to respond to talking about how, we were saying that Archie's the next coming simply because his name, that he's the Heisman favorite because of his name. What if we take a step back and say that he was a single possession, a single drive away from beating Ohio State, the reigning champ, with arguably one of the best defenses in the land?
Yeah, so 14-7, Ohio State beats Texas in the shoe. Couple things, yeah, I totally agree. There was a close game. They had a chance to win the game going down the field at the end, but the first takeaway from that game for me was both defenses looked elite. Both defense, especially secondary wise. I think this Ohio State defense is really good. I do think not enough people are giving credit to Matt Patricia. I thought he coached a hell of a game.
Caught me off guard.
That was a huge pickup. Like that linebacking core of Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles flying around. I do think their D-line's good. I think they did get rough. Both teams ran the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
I thought the difference between the two quarterbacks was this. It looked like Ryan Day put the training wheels on the offense for Julian Sayin. Like made it easy for him. We're not gonna go deep with Jeremiah Smith. Besides, he did miss him on that fourth down that Max Clare dropped. Like
and he underthrew Carnell Tate by 6 or 7 yards.
Oh my gosh. That was such a touchdown that he tried not to make a touchdown. Like he had the guy beat so bad. He underthrew it so much. I was like, this might get broken up.
He should have caught him like 6 yards deep into the end zone. Instead, he threw it, I think, at the 2-yard line.
Yeah, and then whenever they hit Jeremiah Smith, it was underneath. Kind of like that safety blanket. Like their training wheels were on. The question with Ohio State is going to be the defense is there. Can they take the training wheels off? Because that's the other difference between him and Arch was that he had so much of a better supporting cast, which made it a lot easier. Mm-hmm. If he can push it downfield throughout the season and can they kind of open up the stuff that they were doing with Will Howard in the playoffs, I think this team has a chance to repeat. And now going to Arch. The thing about Arch was, well, like, what do you mean? You don't think they have a chance to repeat?
I do. I don't know. I struggle with the idea of like you said, a first-year quarterback going in and dominating the Big Ten and then dominating 11 other teams in the playoff. I'm with that for both Texas and Ohio State. I don't know. There was something that I was caught off guard by Ohio State's. They have that explosive factor where like you could be up 3 or 4 touchdowns and you still don't feel comfortable.
I'm not saying they're going to win it. They're not my pick. I just think if that offense can get a little more dynamic, they're a contender. Just because
which is such a crazy comment, though. If you take a step back and look at who they have, it goes to show like how much of the breaks were they putting on that offense.
But because they did struggle, he did struggle at times to distribute, which is like that's a big if he can get better there. But going to Arch. It's so much different with Arch, I think, because it looked like at times Sark just didn't even trust Arch. I'm sorry. It looked like Sark didn't even trust Arch. Like, just the way they were scheming it up. His supporting cast isn't where Ohio State's is right now. And I don't know. It just didn't look like they trust him. Also, his mechanics were bad at times. He went to the sidearm so many times, and he just was plain just missing guys. Like, that last drive, he had a guy open on 2nd and 3rd down. 4th down, he got a ton of pressure. But 2nd and 3rd down, just straight up missed 2 open guys. And, like, that can't happen if Texas is going to make a run. And the defense is good. The defense is good. It's the same old Texas. They struggle to push the ball downfield. They're pretty good with the run. But I don't know. I still just don't trust Arch.
Yeah, I certainly won't be picking Texas to win the SEC. I think there's other teams that will be in an easier and better position to be healthier come the time. But, I look at Arch Manning's stat line, 17 for 30, 170 yards, touchdown and an interception. And I have to say that there is potential there. Obviously, I know there's potential there. He played really good last year in the few games that he played. But, I almost think it's more of a Sark problem than anything. And I feel like people are just too afraid to acknowledge that. And like we're sitting here and we just refuse to admit to ourselves that Sark can't win a big game. He literally can't. He beat Clemson last year, lost to Georgia twice. Absolutely terrible games against Georgia both times. Had the lead, had a backup quarterback in there. Literally had fans throwing bottles on the field to reverse a passing interference call.
That was crazy.
That was one of the crazy, not talked about enough. But you know, I'm sitting here and saying like, and I'm not an OC and I'm not a head coach, but like they couldn't do anything offensively and
at all.
I feel like being the guy who has this reputation of offensive dynamics and in having this reputation. I guess what I'm trying to say is Steve has this great offensive mind type rep aura to him, but I have yet to see it. I have yet to be overly impressed in a
Well,
big game where he's going, Texas versus Florida, and he drops 55 on them, and everyone's thinking in like a really good team. Like
yeah.
I've yet to been overly impressed by Texas in the last couple of years that they've started to get this national championship hype. I don't think the season's over for them. I do think it's going to be curious how they respond going back to SEC play. But just like LSU and Clemson, I think that LSU. I'm not going to say Clemson's top 4 team anymore. I'm not there. I don't think they're a playoff team, but I do think that LSU played a really, really good defense. I think Archie Manning in Texas played a really, really good defense. Matt Patricia did a hell of a job. I was very, very caught off guard by that, but it makes sense in hindsight when you take a step back and look at what they had. Going, but
the biggest winner of that game, like as a joke, could be the Philadelphia Eagles because everyone wants to ban the tush push.
Yeah.
And it kind of showed you just how, and I hate the Eagles, but it showed you how well they run that play. It's Jalen Hurts, it's that offensive line because, what was Texas 0 for 2 and it was bad. They got stuffed on the one. Like they couldn't run it at all. I don't know why they went back to it. They got no push off on the offensive line, and then Arch just he had no gusto going.
I knew the game was right over then. If you can't win in the trenches within the 5-yard line, you're not poised to win that game. And I'll never forget, when I was playing back in the day in high school, I got bodied really like it was a go-ahead touchdown within the 5-yard line. I got absolutely dominated. I thought to myself, Jesus, like they've earned every single right to win this game. And it makes sense. I don't like that play call. Archie's not a big guy. Speaking of bad quarterback, like knowing when to get down, CJ Carr, Notre Dame, he's got to go down. He's got to go down.
You want to switch over to that game?
Yeah, he
27-24 Miami over Notre Dame. What are your thoughts?
It was a tough environment, and I'm trying to come up with every single excuse I can. But the truthfulness of this is that we played really, really bad defensively in the first half. Chris Ash, our DC, did not have the boys ready to defend any kind of bunch formation. I don't know if you saw that. They went out with trips, but it wasn't an extended trips. It was really close to the tight end. And they were just basically running option routes, and they were getting open almost every single time. They went, I think, 4 for 6 on third down in the first half. Average yards to go were 8. Somewhere that I'm all for losing games, so I don't feel as sick to my stomach as I did Northern Illinois, obviously, or if you go back to Marshall.
Obviously, yeah, those teams were like really
well, bad. Hear me out. Is that I saw stuff that I'd liked to see out of Notre Dame. But with that being said, there's something that's really not sticking well with me is that defensive line play was really freaking bad. Yeah. There was a play where, and if you think about a 4-3 type situation, Johnny, you have a 3 tech on the defensive tackle, and then you have a 2 eye, the inside eye on the guard, where the guard came down with a strong right hand and pushed the DT across the center of the line of scrimmage. So he was in the 2 eye, inside eye of the guard, flew across the center. And their running back ran for 10 yards. The first person to touch him was the safety. Yeah, and as a DT, you can bleed the gap a little bit. That's you expect to happen. But I was blown away. They figured out a way. I think they switched some personnel a little bit to get back into the game. I was overly impressed by how CJ Carr handled himself once he got that first touchdown pass out there.
Yeah,
I thought our wide receivers looked good. I don't want to sound like a jerk, and I don't want to sound spoiled. Okay. Is Mike Denbrock overrated?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I think he is. I think he is. Because first off, talking about this game, I do want to give a lot of credit to Miami because they went out, they took that. They went out and took that.
They beat Notre Dame exactly how people thought Notre Dame was going to beat Miami, if that makes any sense. They ran it down their throat. They ran it inside the tackles.
I was completely rattled when the announcer early in the game, Miami's really running the ball effectively, and they go, Miami was the number 2 team last year running it between the tackles, right behind Baylor. I was like, what? But then it started to make sense because Cristobal has built an SEC offensive and defensive line. Like that offensive line gets after you. They get your hands on you and they start pushing. But But I thought that opened up exactly what they needed for Carson Beck, because they started running the ball super effectively. And then you're right. When they get into bunch and they start running these mesh concepts, they're dragging people all over the place, crossing. And then they were getting just athletes in space. Malachi Tony, CJ Daniels,
Yeah,
that catch, unbelievable.
good
Like
player.
they were getting guys. Yeah, he was on LSU last year. Imagine if LSU had him.
Yeah.
They were getting their guys in space at will in that first half, and Notre Dame did adjust. But Carson Beck looks like he just likes football again, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but so I want to give props to Miami, and then going to Notre
Do you think
Dame.
that Miami's leading the ACC right now in your power rankings in your own mind?
I don't know, man. That Florida State win was just so emotional, so it's tough. But
That
yeah, I think
Miami
Miami.
win, I felt like was on the same platform as
Yeah.
FSU's. In Miami, I felt like
So yeah,
had less of a luck factor. That I think that they would have beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. I think they would have beat Notre Dame at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think they would have gotten Notre Dame 9 out of every 10 times. The score was reflective of a good culture. But boy, oh boy, I think that Miami team was physical and that Notre Dame has some gaps to fill.
yeah, moving to Notre Dame is what I was really shocked about. This is like my whole life, last 20 years. Notre Dame has always had a kick-ass offensive line. Like they've always had guys up there that are nasty, they're mean, and they move you. And they got bullied. They got bullied. CJ Carr didn't have a lot of time, and he's young, and he has a lot to learn, and he looked young, but you can't blame him because he had no time. But at the same time, he did make a lot of mistakes. Like those 2 intentional groundings were really bad. That's like young quarterback stuff. And I don't know, like a couple things that I was very not upset, but just surprised about was where was Jeremiah Love? Like why aren't we giving him the ball? He's supposed
Where's
to be a top
Shadarian
5.
Price, Johnny?
Yeah, but Jeremiah Love's supposed to be like a top 5 guy in college football. They didn't even want to give him the ball in the first half. And then you go out and you pay $1 billion to get Malachi Fields. And when you guys got him the ball, he looked awesome.
Yeah.
But he only had 4 receptions. I think he might have been targeted like 5 times. It's almost like Notre Dame refused to get their playmakers the ball, and that was so confusing to me. And I know CJ Carr's young, but he's not Riley Leonard. I don't know why we're addicted.
I have no idea why we're doing that. I have no idea
2
why.
things they were addicted to. They were addicted to QB draw, and they were addicted to getting the ball out for a screen. Like how many wide receiver screens do they run that just got blown up?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
couldn't get away from those.
It wasn't like really his fault, but like at the same time, like it was. I have a couple ideas on the draw. I think we were getting dominated by their DTs, which was killing us. So that draw was that number 11 from Louisiana Monroe, an absolute monster on the defense.
That guy's beast.
I think he's 6'6", 320 or 310. That's a big mother trucker, and that is hard to move. And I have to sit here I get concerned, and I do it probably more than anyone, but differently. I'm very contrarian in the sense where I get very concerned when people buy into an entity more than they should, simply based off other people and other things. When people were saying Marcus Freeman's this elite coach and everything, and he's openly said how much he has to learn. I saw a few different coaching mistakes where I am extremely disappointed. Would love some explanation on it. And there's stuff that I just disagree with, and I have to question some things. When you have your offensive line eating snacks and getting basically IVs on the side, you have to wonder where was their off-season conditioning where they can't go to Miami on a rainy night where the real field is only 83 degrees and not cramp up for 60 minutes. That's questionable. Following that, their offensive line play just got absolutely degraded as the game went on. They started out decent. It just got worse and worse and worse. And I credit that to simply poor conditioning. But I don't think they're that good, their offensive line. I really don't think it's that good. I don't understand the play calls. The whole time when I was watching that game, Johnny, I sat to myself and I said, I feel like Notre Dame's offense isn't in the game. And what I mean by that is I feel like I haven't seen them on the field. Their 3 and outs were bad. And on top of that, it kind of seemed like their offensive play calls, the whole game felt like we have all game for Jeremiah Love.
There's no urgency with him. There's no urgency to get him the ball
all day to get CJ Carr going. Instead of saying like, hey guys, we're down 21-7. Let's give this guy the ball 13 times and see what happens.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing about Notre Dame is that, and this is the first time, like I was really high on them going into the season because they brought a lot of guys back. And I was really high on their defense, their secondary. But for the first time since I can remember it, Notre Dame lacks an identity offensively. Like they were just, I don't know. Like you're right. Like
They
their
have all the
play
puzzle
calling,
pieces.
they
They
have
have all
all
the
the
puzzle
puzzle
pieces.
pieces, but
Yeah.
I don't know. They never got in a rhythm. They never committed to Jeremiah Love. And if you're not going to commit to Jeremiah Love, you better commit to Malachi Fields, Jordan Faison, Great House, like all these guys that you're paying to play wide receiver for you. And they didn't. They were just addicted to the tight end who had a really poor game.
Yeah,
And
no, I'm with you
I
100%.
don't know.
I think the offense will get there. I think our biggest concern was one point our biggest strength, and that's our defensive front seven. I think is absolutely garbage. I think that eventually, and I'm just using Penn State as an example. They're the first team that comes to mind. We see them in the playoffs. They'd run the ball up and down our throats, 250 plus yards, just
Yeah.
dominating that guard to guard area. That box, tackle to tackle, 3 yards front, 3 yards back. We don't have size, we don't have length, we don't have any kind of talent on that defensive line. Really disappointed, but hats off to Mario Cristobal in that
Big
Miami
win
team.
for him.
I think
Big
the
win.
ACC is theirs to take. I got to see it for 12 weeks though. I got to see
Oh,
that
yeah,
sense of
totally.
urgency,
Totally.
against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. I need to see that at Syracuse. I need to see that against NC State. It can't just be a 7:30 prime time game for Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck and Malachi Tony to show up and play. Boy, were you spot on that offensive guard, Johnny. I watched him kind of with my mouth open the whole time because I was like, whew, that guy is good.
That guy's good.
You
And
know who he reminded me a lot of, and you might remember
who?
his name better than I. There was a guard who played for the Ravens.
Oh, is it Jonathan Ogden?
I'm thinking the Haloti Nada, maybe, or is that the
Oh,
defensive?
yeah, no, but he played defensive tackle. Jonathan Ogden was a pretty good offensive lineman.
Where I'm going with
he's
this,
a
he just has the biggest shoulders and the biggest
He's
chest
thick.
that I've seen.
He's
I could
so
not
thick.
imagine getting my hands inside and creating any kind of flexibility there. But yeah,
And that's-
Notre Dame starts out 0-1. I'm a bit concerned that their path is thin. And that sounds crazy, but it's really not. If Boise's already out of the top 25 tomorrow morning,
Yeah.
that's a given.
Oh, yeah.
We're sitting here Monday night. The AP rankings have not been released, obviously, because tonight's game, which is currently going on, I have not checked the score of that. But Boise's out of the top 25. Arkansas is not going to be in the top 25, most likely. We have
A&M. You have a week off, and then A&M. That's huge. That's the
our
season.
That's our likely only top 25. I think Pitt. You were on Pitt really, really early. I'm with you on that one. I think that they might squeeze in the top 25, but we're going to need some shit to hit the fan for Notre Dame to get top 10 in the college football playoffs. I think at this rate.
The A&M game could be the season. Not to jump to conclusion, but I'm saying you're right. There's not a lot of meat on the bone for this schedule. So you gotta come out and make a statement. And I don't know. I just feel like how poorly the defensive line played, it caused the secondary and the linebackers to have to come in so much. And that's where Miami just got the ball to athletes on the outside. And I just think this Miami team, if they can continue to run the ball like they did, that travels. And that just makes Carson Beck's play action just life so much easier. So this ACC, one of the biggest takeaways from this week is this ACC race is going to be awesome. I thought it was one horse. I thought it was one horse, and now there's three. And
I thought it was truly you're not even going to tune into the ACC. And I just want to throw something out there for some of our listeners. And I got an argument over the weekend a little bit about, and this is an older gentleman who was saying to me that the new setup makes games not matter as much. And I just, I drove home from Saratoga today. It was about 3.5 hours. And I was thinking the whole time while my daughter napped in the back, is that is just the most ignorant thing to say. Back in the day when it was Clemson, Bama, that there was only 4 teams that I really like to watch every single week, not including Notre Dame, because those are the only 4 that were going to most likely make the playoffs. And those are the only 4 that matters. And upset absolutely kills it. Yes, each individual game does not matter as much. You can afford to lose a game. And I know this is a little bit of a tangent, Johnny, but isn't it so much awesome, the idea that Auburn, after how good they played against Baylor, could drop one and still be an electric team to play in November, in October, and say, hey, I'm tuning into Auburn for the first time in probably 8 years, and we have a likely or possibility that they continue to win or knock someone out of the playoffs here. I think that's awesome.
We don't even have to go to Auburn. We can stay in South Bend. 10 years ago, my Notre Dame season's over. Right now they lost. They're over. Now next week, Texas A&M, 2 weeks from now, Texas A&M's a playoff game. Like that game matters so much more now. Whereas that game, like you've had like Notre Dame guys sitting out, focusing on the draft. Now you've got Texas A&M coming to South Bend, possibly for a playoff spot.
And,
That's
there, and,
awesome.
there's, and there's probably 15 teams that are in the same position. Clemson's
Exactly.
in the same position. Bama's in the same position. It's so exciting. I loved this week of football. I am yearning for more of the 5 teams that we already, or excuse me, the 10 teams, 5 games that we talked about. Those teams, I'm very excited to see how they play out. Moving forward, Johnny, these are today's odds. I got these right before you and I started talking.
Let's
We have
go.
Iowa versus Iowa State at -3. We have Illinois -3 against Duke. Baylor versus SMU. They're at SMU. They're -3 there. Kansas is at Mizzou. A really interesting SEC Big 12 matchup. Mizzou is -6 there. UCF in Florida. Florida is -17.5. Only reason I threw that in there, UCF dominated Boise.
Yeah.
I thought Florida played really good. I'm rooting for Florida. I have a bias towards Florida there, so I'm going to include them in this week's key matchups. And then obviously the big week too, Michigan heading down to Norman against Oklahoma. Michigan did not play well, I thought, in week 1. Didn't really dominate the line of scrimmage the way I thought they did. I thought they let up some long drives. They are a 5.5-point underdog against Oklahoma, indicating roughly that they would be a 2-point underdog in any kind of neutral field. But starting with we're going to go kind of
1 second before we get to the picks. Can I just throw like a couple, just like one sentence about other headlines from the week? Tell me if you agree or disagree.
Okay.
So besides the big games, I had winners of the week. Auburn looks super good.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech for playing really bad and still winning. Haynes King.
That is
I want to go to war with
dude.
him. I want to go to war with Haynes King. I don't know if he can survive the season, but man, that guy plays hard.
When they were driving, all they had to do was hold on to the football to end the game, right? I was thinking to myself, run out the clock. I think this says a lot about me and a lot about Haynes King. That dude put his shoulder down and ran for 35 yards and a touchdown and ended the game right then and there.
Awesome. Crazy. Okay, I also had Utah. Utah looked really good. Kyle Whittington, such a good coach.
UCLA.
Yeah, they're my losers. The number 1 loser of the week, Nico. Tennessee looking good and UCLA looking bad, especially him. And then finally, Indiana. Dude, 27, 14 over Old Dominion. Indiana does not look ready for the Big Ten schedule.
No, that was I would like to believe that they, just like everyone, had some new team hiccups, but 27 points against an Old Dominion who was just recently FCS is absolutely terrible. I don't know what to make of that game. I'm gonna
I don't know about
add it to the list of teams that I have no idea what to make of them. But Iowa heading to going into week 2, Johnny. I actually really like that segment you just did. I plan on having you do it more often because that was a lot of fun. Awesome. Iowa heading to Iowa State. Iowa State is a current 3-point favorite. At first, I liked Iowa. I thought that this might be their year, and then I looked up their final box score. Guess how many passing yards Iowa had against University of Albany, UNH's rival, who's gotten our number during our time there. I want you to guess before you look it up.
Okay, I don't know. Please tell me they're over 180.
Oh, Johnny, cut that into a quarter.
What?
I think they had 46 yards in the air.
Oh no!
They had 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, but they had 50 yards.
That's bad.
That's so bad. They grounded and pounded, which I think is admirable. It's typical Iowa, but I thought this was going to be the year that we can actually start to develop some points. Albany is not a bad FCS team whatsoever, but no. I'm going to take Iowa State on this one. I think that they run the ball and will be able to control the line of scrimmage. I do like Rocco Becht. I thought they just improved. I thought their game against South Dakota, I believe it was a tricky, sneaky trap game. Try saying that 5 times fast, but they dominated, threw up 55 points. South Dakota is possibly an FCS playoff team, if not a top 15 playoff team, and they just absolutely dominated.
Yeah, you just put me in a blender. I was really going to pick Iowa.
Yeah, I knew that stat threw you for a loop because I didn't believe in myself at first.
I'm going to stick with Iowa. I don't know if I trust them at all. But I do trust Kirk. I think this is a Kirk Ferentz spot. I think they get one of these games every year, I feel like. I think it means more, this rivalry. I also like him better than Matt Campbell. I don't know. I'm going to go Iowa
Would
just
you say
because,
you're a Matt Campbell hater?
yeah, I think,
Okay,
yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah. I'm a big Matt Campbell hater. I think he's overrated.
Is
But
he a coach that could ever prove you wrong? Like, no disrespect to you, and I'm not just saying this because I like Iowa State this year. If James Franklin went and won a natty, I think I would still be a hater. Jim Harbaugh, one of my biggest coaches that I've hated, won a natty, and I still talk shit about him. I think I would do the same for James Franklin. I think I would do the same for Hugh Freeze, do the same for Kalen Debeor.
yeah, I'm a Matt
Is that
Campbell
your
hater.
Matt Campbell?
Yeah. I'm not that passionate about it, but
Okay.
I just don't believe in him. I
That's
don't
fair.
know. He had him going with Brock and Chuba Hubert a couple years ago. I thought they were going to be awesome, and then they just kind of fell flat the
Very
next
tough
couple
to
of
compete
years.
with Lincoln Riley and USC during those years, though, Johnny.
And they did. And
They
And
did.
then what happened?
They
What
did.
happened when Lincoln left? The
That
Big
was
12
weird.
was open. The Big 12 opened up, and I thought they were going to crown him, anoint him the next guy in the Big 12, and then he
Yeah, and
disappeared.
they lost 6 games that year.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I'm a hater. I'm going to pick Iowa. I think this is a Kirk Ferentz spot. +3.
I'm very surprised. The next one I think is going to be really short lived. You and I are both sitting on Illinois pretty heavily here. I would honestly throw my lock of the week on this. I don't see how Illinois drops this game. Keith, one of our listeners, said this even prior to the season, that this was a sneaky game heading to Duke. I think it is not a sneaky game. I think a 3-point field goal is insulting. I think this is probably close to a 17-point game. This gives me the same type of feeling of a Texas-Michigan last year, where everyone and their mothers knew Texas was going to beat that game, and a 6-point spread was just not enough. Give me Illinois. Give me the points. You can spread that to 9.5, and I'd still take it. 3 reasons.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I love Illinois. Everyone knows that who listens. I love Luke Altmaier. Ball. Yeah, I'll take him with the points.
Johnny, we then have Baylor's heading to SMU. Early on, I would have said SMU. Give me the points. Give me my Cheesecake Factory. The way Auburn ran up and down Baylor for, I believe, 310 yards total was embarrassing. Very, very shocked to see that. I'm going to take SMU -3 here. I think that Baylor starts 0-2, and the Dave Arian hot seat starts to warm back up.
I'm going to go up. So I'm taking Baylor. I was really high in them before the season. And I was really high in them before the season. And I think that's why they're going to win its rebound game. I don't think they can afford to lose this game going into the Big 12 schedule. I also think we'll also know that Waco's 90 minutes from Dallas. They're getting the whole fan section there. We're all hop in the car. Let's drive to Dallas. Let's take over SMU Stadium. I do like SMU. I love Kevin Jennings, the quarterback. But I think this is Baylor. This is a must win for them. And I think they show out because of it.
That's exciting. We have Kansas heading to Mizzou. Mizzou is a 6-point favorite. I like Kansas this year. I really like Jalen Daniels. If he can stay healthy, I think he is. Mizzou, people are talking about as a sneaky dark horse to make the playoffs simply because of schedule. I think this is an incredibly missed spot on their schedule. I'm taking Kansas in the points, but I'm also going to throw out my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. I'm going to take Kansas with the upset here. I don't think Mizzou has enough power. I know your boy Bo is there. He's a hell of a quarterback, but I think Jalen Daniels is going to be able to run all over them. And I'm going to take Lance Leopold over our boy
Elijah Drinkwitz. Yeah. I'm a Bo Lever. I'm going Mizzou. I love Bo Pribula.
He is a good player.
He's just fun, and he seems like a good guy. And there's a shame about the rules he had to leave in the middle of that playoff run last year for Penn State, because he might have been the backup quarterback, but they used him a ton of packages. He was just such a Swiss Army knife for that team last year. I think that did hurt them in the playoffs.
I hope they're able to use him as an example moving forward, though.
I think they will. But yeah, I'm a believer. Give me Mizzou.
That's crazy stuff. The reason I include this next game, USF, is at Florida, a Florida competition. We have USF beating number 25 ranked Boise State. We have Florida State beating number 8 ranked Alabama, and then we have Florida, who is on the up and come. I thought this was an exciting in-state matchup.
Miami
at surface level. Miami beating number 6 Notre Dame.
Florida football is so back right now.
It's so back, and as they should be. They're the number 1 recruiting state in the country. That's why I wanted to include this game, because I think that 17.5 is way too much for Florida. But this tells me a lot about everything. If Florida goes and covers this game, we have a SEC contender, and that is
DJ Lagway.
undeniable. If USF covers, the Heisman's going to be at his apartment doorstep.
DJ.
USF covers and or wins this game. Obviously, our boy. Hold on a second. It's late at night.
Come on, you got it. I know it. I have it if you need it, but you got it.
I need it. Bring it.
Billy Napier.
Billy Napier is going to be back on the hot seat. I'm going to take Florida. That's simply out of fandom. I'm hoping Florida covers this because I want to see them bring back the Gators, and I want to see them start to compete for the SEC. I think there's a few teams, Johnny, that when they're good, football is good. LSU is one of them. I'm not upset about LSU winning. I'm kind of embracing this. Screw Brian Kelly, but I am excited for that. But I think Florida is one of the other ones. I think Florida is one of them. USC is one of them. Notre Dame's one of them. And, that's why I'm going to pick Florida here. DJ Lagway only had 2 incompletions last week, went 21 for 23. That obviously they played an absolutely terrible team, but I'm going to go with Florida on this one.
Florida's going to win this game, but I'm going to take South Florida with the points. I think this game is going to be like 35-21. USF gets a late touchdown. I'd put the line more like 14.5. I would be a little hesitant there. I think 17.5 is a ton of points. USF played so good last week against Boise when no one took them. So I'm going to take them to cover. I think they'll lose, but I think they'll cover.
Finally, we have Michigan heading to Oklahoma, another huge Big Ten SEC matchup. Very curious. Last year I went into Michigan hosting USC, and I'm pretty sure I bet my entire mortgage on USC, believing that they would out-compete, out-physical Michigan, which is such a crazy thing to say when you take a step back. And lo and behold, Michigan stepped up, ran it down USC's throat, cut off a huge, came back from a huge lead. I don't know what to make of this game. I'm staying dead neutral. Oklahoma, John Mateer had the boys rolling. I think he had 350 yards of offense.
Something gross.
4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 135 QBR. Michigan, I thought, underperformed against Louisiana. Was it ULM? It wasn't.
Yeah.
Louisiana.
No. It was New Mexico. New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico. Yeah.
In UNM had a couple of sketchy touchdowns, but I'm gonna let you take the lead. And then I'm gonna pick mine based on yours.
Okay. I still have to pick my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. It's not this week though.
Okay, good.
What's the spread again?
The spread is 5.5 Oklahoma.
Okay. I have to learn from the past. And if there's one thing last week told me is trust veteran quarterbacks and don't trust rookies. I'm taking Oklahoma. It could be a hater take. I hate Michigan. I hate Sharon Moore. Who knows Bryce Underwood? I think he's going to struggle in Norman. Get loud, Norman, Oklahoma. John Mateer's played so much college football. He's experienced. I think he's going to be – this isn't the Michigan the last couple of years. I think they're young. They're inexperienced. I think Oklahoma's the opposite of that. I like that I like that receiving core for Oklahoma. I think they win this game.
Yeah, I think you're spot on that. I was hesitant to pick Michigan. I want to believe in Michigan because they were one of my dark horses to make the playoffs. And I think that this in Indiana, which is now in hindsight not really posing that much of a threat, is Michigan's only path to not make the playoff. The Big Ten race is going to be absolutely disgusting. And it's going to come to these non-conference games that will determine it, which is a crazy idea. But I think that Oklahoma's just going to be throwing the ball all over Michigan. I don't think they're talented on defense the way they were. I think they lost too much talent. Bryce Underwood didn't do anything to impress me over the weekend. I was hoping when I rewatched the game that I would see something I didn't originally see, but there was nothing that CJ Carr did. There's nothing that Archie did. There's nothing that Julian did that Bryce Underwood didn't, or vice versa. I thought all those first-year quarterbacks almost played identical. So I thought that was a little bit disappointing because I was expecting a bigger win from Michigan. Therefore, I'm be very excited if I'm proven wrong, if you're proven wrong, and Oklahoma wins the game. Johnny, one more thing before we do your Cheesecake Pick Factory of the week and our parlay picks. Are you looking too much into South Carolina's fairly close game against Virginia Tech?
No. I keep going, depending on how I feel. I'm like 50-50 if they're going to make the playoffs, just because how hard their schedule is. I'm not looking too into that. I think that was a tough spot. I think that was an emotional game for Shane Beamer. everything he does is emotional. But I think
It
that was an
seems like
emotional
that.
game. He's a psycho, but I kind of like psychos. He's a psycho though. But I think playing his dad's old school,
Yeah.
Virginia Tech Beamer ball, I think that was definitely an emotional game. But I'm not looking too into it. I think they're just too talented. I think they kind
I
of stumbled out the gate.
love seeing a special teams touchdown. All three
So
facets of
sick.
the game is great to see.
Beamer ball.
Yeah, it was good. I'm hoping for them. I think this is the year a 3-loss team gets in the playoff. It's going to be from the SEC. My guess is it's either Florida or South Carolina. Moving on to my pick of the week. My pick of the week is a 1439 parlay. So you bet 10, you win $143.90, plus your $10 back. I have Iowa State at -3. I have Illinois at -3. If you're feeling extra frisky, spread that out to 9.5. You shouldn't be gambling money that you don't have. So if you're feeling extra frisky, spread that out to 9.5. I don't even know what the odds are. They would go crazy. Pick Kansas in the spread +6. Don't do the money line. Don't get greedy there. And then this one's a little bit sneaky. I like UNLV +125 money line over UCLA. I said it once. I said it twice. I think UCLA is a terrible team.
Yeah, they're bad.
And I think UNLV can be in a decent spot to win that conference. In that, I know obviously that's out of conference, but they're going to want more wins to get in. And give me UNLV +125.
Awesome. You already made your cheesecake too, right?
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas. Give me Kansas over Mizzou. I'm hoping they knock Mizzou out of the SEC, out of the playoff contentions, because I don't want a Mizzou in the playoff. I don't want a team that we're sitting here and saying their schedule is so easy we legally are obligated to give them a playoff spot. I don't ever want to be in that position. And I hope the football gods correct that naturally.
Okay. I like that. I'll do my parlay first. I didn't love the board, so I did a smaller one, just a 3-pick. +602, 10 pays 70. I've got Iowa +3 against Iowa State. Kirk Ferentz spot. Let's do it. Illinois -3 at Duke. I think that should be more. Like you said, you can spread that out. And then South Florida +17.5
Nice.
against Florida. I think they're going to cover. I talked about all three of those picks. I won't go into it further. I'll just get to my cheesecake and we'll be done. I'm flying to Waco, not to Dallas. I'm flying to Waco so I can drive the 90 minutes to Dallas. We're doing it. We need this win. We need a win before the Big 12 schedule starts. Baylor +3 at SMU. SMU had their chance last year. They lost too much. They didn't get enough in the portal. Baylor over SMU.
I love that. It's crazy how quickly I went off Baylor from simply one loss. I hate a team that gets the ball run down their throats.
It looked ugly.
That has me apprehensive with Baylor, but I was so high against them that it's crazy how quickly I flipped between them and Auburn. But it's going to be another hell of a week. And then after this week, I think we start in conference play, right, Johnny?
I'm so excited. Excited.
Week 2 is generally a dud. There's usually not a lot to talk about. So I'm actually kind of grateful for these out-of-conference games. I think we have something special here.
Yeah, let's have a week.
Awesome, Johnny. We're going to let you go. Go watch UNC. I haven't even checked the score, but it's going to be another good one.
Last time I checked, I'll check it right now. 7-7. It was 7-0. 7-7 now.
Great. Let's see an overtime game. That's what I need on my Monday night.
That'd be awesome. It'd be awesome.
All right, Johnny. We'll see ya.
See you later.